I was fortunate to have all education, but I was also not fortunate to be in the best schools. I've never been a developer, so I was educated to be a developer, right? So I ended up by being an entrepreneur, a marketing person, an operations person. And then all of this, it's because I was shaped by every individual I've met in my life. As I told you, when someone comes and say, Malik, I believe you can do this. If you really believe that I can do it, I just jump on it. Everything I've done in terms of businesses, there was a gap in the market for that. I usually try to say that I'm a creative operator. In Kinyarwanda, it's easier. I say I'm Ndumushabiti. I am a Nyamirambo kid, so I grew up on the streets. Bro, that space shaped me.
Where did the first, let's say, amount of money that you made, where did that come from?
A teacher.
What is it that Malik is trying to achieve?
My goal is one day to be able to say, I've created enough change to this country. I don't have a dream to become a billionaire. It's funny enough, I don't.
What would be probably like the philosophy of life that you would want to teach your son?
Man, this is a hard question.
Why did you decide to build that company? What was the story behind it? What do you guys do?
We were raised in a creative community. So my entire family, one way or another, we have our creative juices. And the idea was, why do we keep feeding others? Why don't we get together, create our own company, and build each other as a family? And in the last 3 years, we've managed to sign contracts with some of the biggest corporates in this industry. Like, as an entrepreneur, your vision should be very clear from the beginning.
Is entrepreneurship for everyone?
No. There's nothing that is set for everyone.
Malik,
yes.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. My
How
pleasure.
are you doing, man?
Good. It's been a while,
Yeah, it's been a while. And the interesting thing is you've run a podcast also, so it's going to be interesting speaking to another podcaster. But there's a lot to talk about, right? A lot to catch up on. But let's kick off with try to understand the context of Malik, right?
Yeah.
I like to joke that when I meet people for the first time, I like to ask them, since when you were born up to today, what has happened in between? But for now, we're just going to keep it to tell me a little bit about some of the things that when you look at it now, these are some of the things that shaped me into the person I am today and the way I think about life.
Yeah.
What are some of those things?
Well, it's really interesting questions, right? What are those things that really shaped me? So the one thing that I usually tell people all the time is actually the number one thing that shaped me is how I grew up, right? It would be very rare that I talk about myself without talking about Nyamirambo.
Yeah.
I am a Nyamirambo kid, so I grew up on the streets of Nyamirambo, and bro, that space shaped me. It made me who I am in so many ways. When I talk about it, people might understand it in a very different way. But if you look at that neighborhood, I think it's one of the most multicultural neighborhood in Rwanda, right? You see people from different regions. I see Rwandans from different communities who lived in different locations. And you see non-Rwandans from different African communities, etc. It has created its own culture that came from that diversity of a multicultural people living in the neighborhood. And then all you see in that culture, because people are coming from different places, and then most of the time they come to really hustle, find ways of living. It kind of gives you a sense of living, right? Because you see different things. Like, I get out of my house, the number one thing I see, it's a woman frying fish on the street. So you go down, there is a bunch of street kids. One is selling copper. Someone else is selling perfume, Up on the road, there's someone who's selling outfits, secondhand outfits. Like, you see so many things. And an entrepreneur, all you see these people trying to hustle for survival. And in addition to that, it's just creative in that sense, right? Because everyone is trying to use the small mean to come up with something. And that, again, put the community together in a sense of it's a multicultural community. For everyone to cohabit, they need to understand each other. They will have different language or a common language they have to agree with, a common way of doing things that it may not be unusual in a normal community. So I really feel like that shaped me so much than anything. And then again, because of that, I usually tell people that I was fortunate to have all education, but I was also not fortunate to be in the best schools, for example, right? Most of my education were in public schools. The average school that an average Rwandan will go in, right? So which means that comes with limitations. So it comes with limitations of what French I can talk, what English I can speak, how much I know in mathematics, etc. So because of that, and then I made sure that I learn a lot from people. Yeah. For a matter of fact, I did computer science in high school, and then business information technology in university. I've never worked in, as I've never been a developer. So I was dedicated to be a developer, right? So I ended up by being an entrepreneur, a marketing person, an operations person. And then all of this, it's because I was shaped by every individual I've met in my life, right? For instance, I remember you pitching in the hangar pitch, and then how you're explaining your business model, and then how many questions we asked you, right, about understanding your business model, etc. So I can see a different person today. I was speaking to someone 2 days ago, and they were talking about job creations in Rwanda. It's like, if you are talking about job creations in Rwanda and you don't have bag innovation in this conversation, I don't know who you're talking to, right? So now for me, then it's every single person I meet, I take a step back to see how is this person moving, right? What is their thought process? I'm really interested about people's behavior because that's what shapes me.
Yeah. Interesting, man. Who would you say is the person that shaped you the most, right? There's also the fact that you get, different things from different people. But who would you think on top of your mind, like, okay, this person really indirectly, maybe they don't even know it, but they did it.
Man, I have so many people I don't even know how to list. If you allow me, I can say a few people, maybe 4 or 5. So one of the person that really shaped me is Amin Gafaranga. They now own over Atelier. So I worked with that guy in 2010. Back then he had a coffee shop, and he was setting up his product design company / interior design. This man taught me what working hard late nights for fruitful things is, right? He taught me how to have a vision and then get to that vision is, right? Like, I've never seen a planner in my life like that guy. So anytime when I'm planning and having a bigger vision, he's my reflection, right? Even the things that I used to hate working with him, it became my inspiration, right? It's like, why do I have to work late night? And things like that. And really 3 other people that I can quickly say, this question is really difficult. My dad is a very interesting character, in a sense of how he's very resilient. It's actually my dad and my mom. My family is a very resilient family, and this is why I actually have this hope tattoo, because of my mom. Because I've never seen someone who really think and then just have hopes that things gonna happen, right? So I really grew up in a family of resilient parents that just think and then have hope that everything is gonna happen. And I will say my brother Khalil as well, because I guess that's the resilience and then creating personality. Because I've understood that in life, to be successful, there is also a personality you need to create as a human being. And then that's really important. So anytime you do something, it's very important to make sure that you are creating a personality, right? It's not about, there's I don't know, like just Rwanda alone, it's 13 million people. So what makes Yusuf Yusuf? It's your personality. But if you want to fall in the bubble of everyone, it doesn't really work, right? And I've had really great bosses. When I was working with Galifect Nike Foundation, I had an opportunity to work with the best people in the world in terms of marketing, business operations, and I've learned so much from them. Maybe two other people I can say in Rwanda. One is Clement Wajeneza, who is a big entrepreneur here. People know him. He has I've never seen such a leader than this guy. Like the way he leads you, he asks you questions. He doesn't make decisions for you. He helps you to make your own decisions, right? And then lastly, Lizinde, which probably, again, people know, as a stronger personality, human being, a very humble person. For matter of fact, I've never had more than 2 hours conversation with Lizinde. But everything he says, every single thing he's told me when we met for a minute, a second, I can remember that. So, I mean, bro, I can go on.
So a lot of people, man. I'm having a conversation with Clement very soon, so it's gonna be very interesting to hear that journey.
Such an amazing person.
Yeah. So how would you describe your personality? So you did talk about that you don't want to be able to fall into the into everybody's bubble. So how would you describe all of these different things right now? How would you describe your personality?
I really wish I could define my personality. Maybe you'll have helped me to be a better person. Maybe that's an exercise I need to run. And I think that's one of the confusions I have in my life. But maybe to simplify this is that I usually try to say that I'm a creative operator. In Kinyarwanda, it's easier. I say I'm Ndumushabiti.
Yeah.
For me, what does this mean? It means that I spot opportunity and then build toward the opportunities, right? And that's how I build my dream as an entrepreneur. And I've refused to be boxed, right? When they're saying think outside of the box, someone said something really amazing. It's like, by the way, where's the box? Why do I have to think outside of the box?
Yeah.
From the beginning, where is the box, right? So my personality, really, I have completely refused to be fixed in a particular box, which create confusions to people and then probably to me as well, because you may meet me today and I'm talking about creative industry, right? And then tomorrow I'm talking about development. And then tomorrow I'm talking about education or something else. But for me, it's really not about that, to be fixed in a certain bubble. For me, is your process of doing things, right? So for me, that's how I define myself. So that's why I ended up by saying I'm a creative operator from a lot of my creative background and then business operations. So it's how I tackle every single challenge I meet in my life. So if the things have been solved in a particular way, how do I solve it differently? Yeah.
Interesting. Let's take a step back a little bit, right? To young Malik, who's studying and just finished school. What did young Malik want to become, right?
Bro, an engineer. I thought I'll be a computer scientist. I thought by now I'll be writing codes.
Can you write any code?
I could. I used to. Nowadays, there's a lot of languages that I have no clue on what's used to happen.
Yeah.
But back then, we used to do Java, C++, Visual Basic. Very simple things. But the beauty of that, of doing computer science, because it's a lot of mathematics, it's really taught me the thought process, which I continue to use now.
Yeah.
So it's ended up by looking at it in a sense of product development than just being a back end or front end, whatever you want to fix yourself as a coder. Yeah.
So what attracted you to computer science? Was it, family and saying, hey, you need to do that? Or was it a specific thing where you're like, okay, I'm really interested in that because of...
Well, when I did computer science, actually I was the second cohort in Rwanda to do computer science. So that was in high school.
Yeah.
It was really when computer science was being introduced in high school, kind of TVET. It was not a thing. And then that said, my dad wanted me to do mathematics and physics. And I went in senior one, mathematics and physics, completely failed. So I had to redo my class and then start again, senior 4 in computer science. But back then, as I said, I grew up in Nyamirambo. And in as much as it doesn't look like a tech place, but I guess you would see the first technology in that location. There used to be telefaxes, public telephones. For matter of fact, my granddad had a whole house that had more than 20 phones that were used as public phones, like really tiny rooms. So you come, they give you a small number, you go in room 1, you make calls, and they had like those counters, like 20 counters. So you come out, you give your number, they say, okay, you are in room 1, you and this is how much you need to pay. So, and I think he was really a pioneer in that sense, of understanding that. And then internet came in, he changed the public phone to have an internet cafe. And then there was internet cafe, there was also fax sending, telefax. So I kind of had that kind of inspiration when I was young, to be exposed on technology. And then that was really the pursuit of like, okay, I've seen this, I know how it works. At least I have a little bit of understanding compared to mathematics, where someone have just to tell me numbers. So, in as much as and then also I went to computer science, and then when internet era came, there was a lot of visual graphics, right? So I went to computer science thinking that I was running away of two things. One, running away of mathematics, which I was very wrong, because mathematics was a principal course in computer science. I was like, why? Bro, to the point that everyone who would fail in mathematics in my school, they used to call them the Maliks. That's how I was terrible in mathematics. And then second, it was that time there was Photoshop Series 6. Which I've seen somewhere. And then I went to computer science thinking that the teacher is going to teach me how to manipulate pictures. I knew a little bit of Photoshop just by playing it outside. And then I called my main teacher, is like, hey, I need you to teach me how to install. I had a CD, by the way, by myself. I need you to teach me how to install this CD in the computer and then teach me how to use Photoshop. He looked at me like, are you crazy, kid? I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, okay, fine. I'll manipulate it by myself. So I learned, and then I started teaching myself how to install softwares, how I learned Photoshop by myself, which then made me a really good web developer in a sense, because I was starting to manipulate visuals, etc. So yeah, I was completely wrong when I did computer science. I thought I was running outside of mathematics. I was going to learn things like Photoshop, like really those cool things you do with computer. And it's like, nope. You need to learn how to code. You need to learn physics and whatnot. Yeah,
very interesting. Tell me about where did the first, let's say, amount of money that you made? Where did that come from?
A teacher. Before I became a teacher, I became an entrepreneur, actually. So when I was in high school, I was in boarding school. And we had a mini canteen. So our canteen closed. And then I was like, what do we do now, right? We got to find ways of living. So
why did it close?
I have no idea. I think financial issues, maybe. Have no idea. So it was a boarding school. So the boys were in a boarding school and the girls were not staying in school. So they were doing half board. So back then, and then I had my pocket money, so I gave my pocket money to one of the girl, and then asked her to bring me agasha juice, which was illegal, by the way, to bring in school, and ham biscuit. So what I did is I took a 5-liter jerry can, pour agasha in, and water, and then I had those small glasses. You know, there used to be some metal glasses, really small. And then I packed my ham biscuit. So I started sending juice and biscuit at school. So I would sell one piece of Reham biscuit at 20 francs. And then Agasha juice at 100 francs.
Yeah.
So then the business actually grew. And then because our school had computer science, and then it was an era of CD. So everyone really were fancying to have a CD, either music or a software or something. And then if you want to buy something like that, where do you buy it in Nyamirambo? So I started buying, how do you call them, empty CDs for copy. So then I'll come and sell empty CDs in my school for anyone who wanted to make a copy. Yeah, so like I bring empty CDs. You'll buy a CD like 200 francs and then I sell it at 500.
Yeah.
So that was really my first entrepreneurship journey. And then later on, my other first very official money, I was really fortunate to stay in the school when I graduated high school. So they asked me to stay and be a teacher. So
really?
Yeah. Like
how is that even possible?
I don't know. Maybe I was smart. Actually, I was not even in the top 3 in my school.
Interesting. How did the proposal come about?
Really random, right? So I go home. We're in big holidays. So national exams result come out. Like we were in a big holidays. And then when the national exams comes after a week, my head teacher, now head of school, calls me. He's like, "Hey, how are you? We would like to offer you a job to come and teach." It's like, me? Yeah. So I have these things if someone believes that I can do something, I never say no. So I ask you, do you think I can do it? If you say yes, I think you can do it, then I will have to do it. Yeah. And then it's like, yeah. It's like, how? I was like, yeah, you come. It's just you'll teach everything you've been learning, and then plus you become the school IT. And then it's like, by the way, I also need you to recommend me one of the other students that you think that can do the job. It's like, wow. So you just called me to be a teacher, something that I've never thought in my entire life, but you also want me to recruit another teacher student. So there's this friend of mine. He's now a really huge, he's a principal engineer now. So he continued to be an engineer. So he works at Kasha, one of the principal engineer for Kasha. So we were in the same school. His name is Lambert. And he was really my closest friend. He was also like, we've always been top 5, all of us. Never the top 1 or top 2, but we've always been top 5. I was like, hey, they asked me to recommend someone to come and teach with me, and I think we can do it. It's like, oh, yeah, we can do it. So we went to school, gave us a contract, because we were just high school graduates, so they're paying us 50% of what they pay to everyone else, which was cool. It's like, I'm still in holidays. I really never planned to be a teacher when I graduate high school. So that's when it started.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Take me through your early career now. So after the whole teaching, you go to university. How do you step into your career, into working with Nike?
So one, my early career. So one, I think I'm one of the people who spent the longest time doing undergraduate, because I spent 6 years undergraduate. And again, because I was fortunate to start working earlier on, I was like, okay, school, you are good, but money comes first. So I find a way to balance.
Yeah.
So I went to work at, then I was a teacher. And then as I told you, when someone comes and say, Malik, I believe you can do this. If you really believe that I can do it, I just jump on it. So I'm a teacher for almost 1 year. And this other lady we met at school come and say, hey, by the way, there is this organization. They're setting up in Rwanda. They're looking for a young Rwandan to work with. And I would want to recommend you to the organization. It's like, yeah. It's like, okay. It's like, send me your CV, and then I would let you know what next. Yeah. So my CV has what? Has everything I started in high school in detail, right? So it's like you learn. So I say, okay, what do I learn? I know how to program in HTML. So I write everything I know in HTML so that I can have a long CV, right? I just, because otherwise it will be like half page.
Exactly. High school and
then
teacher.
I reach it, exactly, yeah. And then I put in details all technical skills I've learned, right? HTML, bam, 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 all the codes I know to do. C++, bam, 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 all the codes I know how to do in C++. And then I go to see the lady in her office, she's not there. I'm like, what do I do? So I just took my CV, threw it under the door, and then left. It's like, okay, if you really want to, let's go back home in Nyamirambo and chill. The next day, they rang me to go to do an interview. And then it was to go to work for the Goethe Institute. So Goethe Institute, the German Culture Center, was setting up in Rwanda. So I went to become the assistant to the director to help building up the Goethe Institute. So worked there for some time. And that's when, again, I started really learning a lot about culture, because I was working a lot with culture, creating artists. And then it's a really long journey. So then I moved to work with Amin, as I said. And the first contract we had when I was working with Amin was to work with Nike Foundation to set up the office. As I told you, the Amin was starting up his interior design business. And then in between, when Gal Effects was starting to hire, and then that's when they approached me. And the first task for them to do was to build an entire distribution system across the country. Again, another big challenge. I've never been a distributor. I know nothing about logistics. And then someone's like, Malik, we want to distribute 100,000 copies of the magazine. And we want this 100,000 copies of magazine to reach the hardest to reach girl in the country. And we want you to be the one to do it. Know nothing about logistics. Never been in all districts of the country. Back then, my English was so tiny. And I'm working with British, Americans. It's like, yeah, maybe I can. So took on the job, spoke to my dad. My dad is like, you just gotta go around the country and figure it out. Was then stopped school for 2 months. So then traveled the entire the 30 district of Rwanda to understand if MTN get to Nyamasheke. How does MTN get to Nyamasheke? Go to a school, we find a pile of books in a library that no one is using. It's like, how did this book go to the school, by the way? So I started questioning a lot about distribution. And then I came back and it's like, hey, this is what I found. This is all the challenges. And this is my solutions. It's like, I will show off your solutions. Like, I'm not sure, but this is what I think. It's like, okay, go ahead, go on, do it. So I start doing that. And then halfway, we are printing 100,000 copies of the magazine. And the largest distributor of magazine was New Time. And back then, they were doing 7,000. So we're doing more than 10 times of what they were doing, right? So which means at that stage, there was no capacity in the country to print 100,000 copies of the magazine in 3 weeks or a month. So tried all the printers, failed. And then my boss then looked at me, is like, what do you think we should do? He's like, we need to go to print in East Africa. That's where everyone goes. I was like, okay, how do you go to East Africa? I was like, I guess I need to travel and find a printer. I was like, can you go? I was like, yeah, I guess. I've never been in a plane. Never been to Uganda, Kenya, never. It's like, okay, can you go to Uganda and Kenya and find a printer for us? I was like, yeah, I can. Put me in the plane, send me to Uganda and Kenya to go to find a printer. And then I spoke to a guy who was my friend he's Ugandan, he was in Rwanda. He's like, I'm going to connect you to someone in Rwanda, in Uganda, and then connect you to someone in Kenya who will give you a tour on every single printer you need to visit. So he connected me to those people, and then they made me visit Uganda, made me visit Nairobi, which I visited all the printers in those two countries, and then come back and say, hey, by the way, I visited the top dogs in printing industry, the smallest, and I think we should go with this particular one, and these are my reasons. Like, yeah, great, then do that. And the second question is like, okay, now how do we get 100,000 copies of the magazine from you, Nairobi to Kigali? Another challenge. find a supplier, bro. Everything was a history in that way. So then I stayed in the organization for 7 years. And I think almost every year I used to get a promotion for a different task, which really that's what shaped me, because everything I will do this year will be completely different to what I do next year.
Yeah.
And it will be a new challenge, right? So to the point, and then I started traveling around Africa, now taking everything we've done in Rwanda to implement it in other countries like Tanzania, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Malawi, and other places like that.
What are you thinking? Like, are you thinking that this is my calling? My calling is to get these books into the hands of every girl on the continent? Or is there anything that is ringing in your head saying, Malik, you could be doing something else. Malik, you have another dream. Malik, something else is calling.
Oh, I'm a hustler, bro. Through that whole journey, I was doing so many other things, right? So through that journey, and then I had my interior design company. I was doing interior decor. I think I was one of the first people, if not the first, who started t-shirt customizations in slangs. Back then, I'm already doing t-shirt customizations, shipping them from Uganda because no one can do t-shirts in Rwanda.
Yeah.
I really knew that I meant to be an entrepreneur. And whatever I do, I need to build a business somehow. Yeah. So while I was doing that, I was also really doing some other, a lot of other businesses on the side hustles, producing videos, etc.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about that, because I know a lot of people who watch the What I'm Building podcast are either trying to be aspiring entrepreneurs or building their own businesses. What is your philosophy of building a business? Do you encounter a problem personally? Let's say that's the reason why I wanted to understand what happened in your canteen in school. Was it that you encounter a problem personally and then you're like, I want to solve it for myself, but I know other people might buy it as well? How do you come up with an idea of a business to start? So you're starting all these small little businesses, interior design. What do you know about that? Why are you doing that? You're doing a video production company. What do you know about that? Why are you doing that? How did those ideas for those small businesses come about?
So I think there's two types of entrepreneurs, right? I really don't know. I'm just making this up, at least from what I think.
Yeah.
So there are the type of entrepreneurs who see a problem and then create a solution to that, right? They're like, okay, I see a gap here. This is a problem. I went to the hospital. This is what I was expecting to have. Now, because I didn't get this, so therefore, this is how I'm going to solve it. Yeah. There is also other type of entrepreneurs who see an opportunity and say, this could make money, right? How do I go for this? So I'm the B entrepreneur.
How do you know it could make money?
I see the opportunity, right? Like, say, for example, everything I've done in terms of businesses, there was a gap in the market for that. So when I started to do interior design, there was like 3 interior designers in the country, right? There was a gap there. My most
people might think that if there's 3, if the market is good enough, why do you need a 4th one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you create a supply and you create a demand, right? Because who doesn't want to live in a beautiful house? But everyone, for example, has a concept that I would go on Pinterest and then find things and then find a carpenter and then do everything by myself, right? So until you show them that even everything or inspirations or the ideas you think you are so good at mixing colors, you're wrong. There is an expert to it. Someone who went to school for it, who can actually give you good guidance that can do it. So there is spotting the gap, right? But then also creating a demand to your services as well, right? So, and then again, that's again where marketing comes in, because you need to understand how you market yourself. I know sometimes that there is enough on the market, but it's very rare that there is enough on the market. It's always how you actually stand differently. Because, like, for example, when I started that business, my unique selling point was made in Rwanda. I would never import anything from my clients. All the chairs, the tables, whatever will be made in Rwanda, even lampshade, right? And then back then, all of this cool stuff or these cool factories you see, they were not there. We just used to go to Gachiriro and then sit with carpenters and then make up everything, which in 2 days they will break and the client will get mad. You'll go back to fix it and then you lose all the profit you've made because you're trying to learn on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your motivation, right? I think also in the different kinds of entrepreneurs, there's also a different kind of motivation. Right? The same way that you run a team and you try to identify why are you applying for this job? What is really your motivation here? What was your motivation when you were starting these businesses? And we're going to get to how has that motivation evolved. Was it, I'm just trying to make a lot of money as much as possible? Was it, I feel like I have a lot of creative ideas. I want to put them out. I want to use my products and services. What was your biggest motivation in starting these businesses? So
my mind runs in, usually, most of the time, my brains operate in the two different parts. Yeah, so part one is there's so much I can do, right? It's like I'm very motivated on like, I am more than what I'm doing now, right? By thinking that I'm more than what I'm doing now, which is not a good thing, by the way, sometimes it stimulates my brain and then pushes me to think further on what else can I do now? Like, I've been doing this, what else? What can we really do? That's one. And then second is, it's the drive of not going back where you came from, right? Because most of us have a dark past, right? And no one wants to see back on that dark past. It's a lesson learned in your life. So I really strive to make a step every day, a step ahead, and never make a step back, right? And that's really what gives me a motivation. It's like, okay, what can I do? What can I help? What can it really help me to move to the next step of my life, right? As an entrepreneur, as a human being, how do I evolve mentally? How do I evolve money-wise? How do I evolve responsibility-wise? How do I cater for my family? You know, and eventually I'll need to rest, right? So what do I need to do before I rest? Sometimes you see people that used to inspire you when you were little. When I say like when you're 8, right? And you see them now, you're like in your 30s or 20s, they're in 50s and 60s. And you look at them, I don't know if this has never happened to you, and you start questioning what they have achieved in life. Yeah. All the time. So now, when I see those type of people, my question is that, how would I get to that age and then question myself and be proud of myself? Yeah.
What is it that Malik is trying to achieve?
Great. Bro, I want to rest at some point, and rest in peace. Oh, that sounds like dying.
I was like, maybe not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah. So, no, I want to be at a stage where I feel like I have created enough change in the world to me, for my family, and then I can enjoy the fruit. Because for now, I can't, right? The world is moving too fast. I am moving too fast. And it's very hard to sit mentally and enjoy what you've achieved, right? Even when you give yourself a small vacation, buy yourself a small gift, or build yourself a good house, it's not enough, right? Because you still feel like there's so much. And then, honestly, my goal is not to be the billionaire of this country. No, honestly, I don't have that, if you ask me. No. My goal is one day to be able to say, I've created enough change to this country. I've built these talents in creative industry. I've managed to support my family to be self-independent for themselves. I can be independent now until I die.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a dream to become a billionaire. It's funny enough, I don't. I have a dream to die happy.
Did you ever have it?
No. Like, I was born in Nyamirambo. There was no billionaire in Nyamirambo. Of course, if you ask me, some of my inspirations would be Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. They are billionaires, right? But I'm not inspired by the money they make. I'm inspired their thinking, their approach of doing things in the world. And that's really less on how much money they have.
Yeah. That's a very interesting perspective, and I think we were talking about it earlier before we started the podcast. Are you getting to the point where you're like, are these things even worth it? You know, these things that we're chasing, these this amount of work, because as you say it beautifully, is that even if you build yourself a nice house, you're driving a very nice car, and you're getting to all these things that you were hustling for even from the time when you were a teacher. And then you're like, okay, I have a lot of these things. I'm like, I should be at peace right now, but why am I not at peace? Do you ever get to the point where you're like, is it even worth it, like, to burn yourself through all these things?
Man, I've had burnout, and I've had time of confusion, and I do a lot of high school talks, and then when I'm doing my high school talks, I tell the student in high school that it's okay for them to not know what they want, right? And what the most important is that they know that they don't know, so that they can figure out. And I think I've lived so much in that theory, which makes sense when I'm talking to a 20 years old or 18 years old, and then I'm 36 now. And sometimes I'm like, at 36, should I really know that one particular thing that I want, and then stop doing everything else and then just go for that? But people have different personalities. I'm not that type of person. I'm the type of person who can't thrive by doing multiple things at the same time. But that creates a lot of burnout. And with that burnout, you start questioning yourself. Is it enough? Do I need more? So my friend, one of my friends has a tattoo that says, I am more. And then I was thinking about my next tattoo, and then I was like, maybe I should have a tattoo that says, I am enough. Like, enough. Like, should I stop now, right? And there is no really answer to this question, Yusuf, because human being, it's first of all, our needs of a human, it's too big to really feel like I have enough, right? So what I've built and I'm still building is actually, how do I define enough for myself, right? How do I define that at this stage I'm okay, right? If I get more, great. If I don't get more, I'm fine, right? And I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. How has your definition of enough evolved over the years? You know, because I think all of us have like a different, you can categorize your life in stages. So in your early career, you have like that stage where you're like, okay, I have nothing on the bank account. I need to make some money. Then you get to the point where, you know, you start working after 7 years. You have some connections. Even if you lose one job, you can get another one. And then you reach another point where, let's say right now, where you have a family and there's other things in your life. So if you can categorize that into those 3 categories, how has the definition of enough for you changed in those different categories?
The funny thing with money is never enough. Let me start from there, right? So you have a 1 million salary, Rwandan francs. You want 1.5, right? So they promote you to 1.5, you want 2, right? And that because more money, more problems, right? More money, more needs. You want to buy, you are driving a motor, buy fast, the first purchase I made in that first salary, by the way, was a scooter, right? Very divey scooter, big achievement. And then since then, I cannot tell you how many motors I've bought, how many cars I bought, and so on. So that's how people work, right? You always need more. I think what I have learned is satisfaction, right? And understanding the capability you have to get more, right? So I always look at this in a sense of, am I satisfied? Yes. Can I do more? No or yes, right? I've said no to some opportunities. There was really great opportunities, but were beyond my capability or beyond my needs. And business opportunities, like investment opportunities. If I tell you that I pulled out on one of the most successful startups in this country you'll never believe. And I accepted to get paid cash out when the company they were starting to evaluate the company in $1 million in Rwanda. But I could see that's not my calling. It's this down the road, it's gonna kill me. But I was seeing that this company is gonna go beyond Rwanda. I could really see it from the time they asked me to join as a founder, from the time I stepped back. And I don't regret it. I'm so proud of what they have achieved. Yeah. So it's because it was beyond my satisfaction. Like, I can do this, but would I be really satisfied? So there is for me, there is also that human satisfaction that is really, really important. And then my choices, either for jobs I work for, or even for business I invest in, there is that personal ego of how do I define my own satisfaction.
I noticed that you're using the word satisfaction, not happiness. Is there a reason for that?
I don't know. Maybe it's a lack of good English. So happiness, you could be happy, right? With or without money, right? But as an entrepreneur, when I'm talking about satisfaction, is what you need with the demand. Yeah. Does that make sense? It's like, okay, sorry, what you have is on the demand, right? So that's the satisfaction, right? So I have a family now. When I'm talking about a family, I'm talking about my beautiful wife and then handsome son, but also my siblings and then everyone. It's like, can I be able to support them when they need me to support them, right? Because it's not all the time they need you to support them, by the way, right? Can I give enough for my son? Can I build a better future for my son? So that is the satisfaction. So if I have this, then I'm satisfied, right? But if I look at my bank account, I project myself and I know that I may be stuck for not paying the best education, the best vacation, the best gift I want to give to my son, I'm not satisfied, right? But do I go home and I look at him and he makes me happy? Yes, I'm happy, right? And if my family makes me happy. Am I satisfied by what I can give them? I'm not. So I guess that is like the way I'm using it, but for the better lack of good English to use.
Yeah. No, I think there's also like people define happiness because everybody, there's no universal definition of happiness. But I want to tap into that as well and say, do you think that's healthy though? Because do you think your son needs that vacation? Or, because I'm asking that because there are other people that I see a lot, like who are friends and who have family, and they're just very happy with just satisfied with just where they are. They're like, yeah, I don't need to be able to offer these things to these people. And sometimes those people don't need those things from us. It's maybe us who feel like we have the responsibility to do that. So that's what I'm asking, like, is that healthy from our sides? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we have that.
Yeah. No, let's look at this, right?
Yeah.
Let's start by human right.
Yeah.
Right. Let's start by human rights. Human rights. What does human rights say? Right. You need to feed your kids healthy.
Yes.
So healthy means balanced diet. Doesn't necessarily means expensive meal or special meal, etc. They need to go to the hospital.
Yes.
Right. They need to go to school. And there's no definition of what a good school is, right? So you can take them to a public school, a private school, the most expensive schools, etc., right? So the number one thing we should look at is a human right. And that's the basics, right? We should provide the basics. Now, should we be satisfied by the basics? I don't think any person in the world is satisfied with the basics. We always need more, right? And I am sure at some point you'll create a family or you're thinking about it. I don't know, right? But Yusuf, there is a reason you bought that quality T-shirt. There is a cheaper quality T-shirt that you could have bought, right? There's a reason you bought that one. because that's what is at your level of demand. Not like the level of what you can afford. It's at your level of demand, right? And usually this is what I tell people when they say is that you like expensive things. I'm like, expensive things is relative, right? Expensive things compared to what? Because if you say you like expensive and you're wearing a shirt of 10,000, my question to you is like, didn't you find a shirt of 5,000? Why didn't you buy it at home? Right? So, and the family is the same. So, there is a basic needs we need to give to our family, but there is more we should give them because of our vision to them, right? I want my son to be successful, right? First of all, I want to cut the generation trauma, the generation of kids growing up and feeling like I need to support my family, I need to feed my dad, etc. So how do I do this? I feed myself, I sustain myself, I build that for my son as well, right? So again, this is very subjective. So and then I think this depends on what level you are at in life. So someone somewhere in a particular location in Rwanda who can only afford the human right, that's what they should do, right? And if they can't, there is support. The government will support them because there's human right that someone should have. But if you have more, why not? Can you not give more to your family?
Yeah. But the thing is that to give more, you have to work extra hard.
Yeah.
Right. So, which is again, maybe that might get us into the topic around, hard work.
Yeah.
Right? Which again, you touch on it as well, where it's like I'm doing all these different things. I'm trying to solve all these problems with all these companies, and then I go through burnout.
Yeah.
And then burnout. I also went through a burnout phase like a year ago, a year and a half ago. And that burnout phase really, what you start asking is the fundamental. It's like, is this worth it?
Yeah.
Is this what I'm looking for? Am I gonna be happy if I can get an extra 25 million on my bank account? Is that gonna incrementally make me happy? And there's a graph about happiness and money, right? Which says that once you hit a certain level of money, the level of happiness doesn't grow, even if you make more money. It just stays the same. Because how much food can you eat? How much, if you can buy 25 houses, how many of them can you live into?
Yeah, Yusuf, the good thing of this podcast is a conversation, right? It doesn't have to be one-on-one conversation.
Yes.
Let me ask you before I respond to you, what is your level of satisfaction? Let's start with bag, right?
Yeah. Level of satisfaction. The reason I'm asking this is because I think I also have an unhealthy, view around success. Because level of satisfaction is, I definitely want to build this into a company that can be in multiple different countries.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, I always joke about this, but there's a side of it which is actually very true, where I tell people that it's either LinkedIn buys us or we buy them.
Nice.
So I set that kind of unhealthy, way out of proportion kind of goal. And I tell it to my team every day. And I'm like, if you're working, let's work towards either LinkedIn buys us
or we buy them. And what will happen if they buy you? Are you going on retirement or?
Who knows? I mean, I think I'm very interested in potentially working on various other problems.
Yeah.
I think I'm a core entrepreneur at the core of who I am. So I think there's other things that I'm interested in. The fact that I do a podcast and I run a startup and I do events and all kinds of things. So I have different interests in life. So I'm not the believer, one of those believers who say, oh, if you build one thing, just stay there for 35 and whatever years. So, I want to be able to do other things.
Yeah.
I will definitely go on vacation for sure. You want to do that.
People who write books on how to be rich or how to become billionaires, they are not billionaires until they write those books. And the books they write are the ones that make them millionaires. Exactly. So the reason I'm asking this question, it's because really, bro, it's so hard to define what enough is. Yeah. But in the same world, I've met minimalist people, whom enough for them is sleep, for example. I have a brother, cousin, he's a painter. Like, he's happy when he does a beautiful paint. And you don't have to buy it. And you don't have to comment about it. So when he sees it and he appreciates it, he's happy, right? And again, happiness is relative. And also happiness comes from ambitions, right? So do I say, is it enough? Enough compared to what, right? Sometimes people ask me, Malik, why do you do so many things in the world? Like, why do you have to do A and B and C? And my answer is simple. The richest man in the world, he's a CEO of top 4 companies in the world. If he can do it, I can do it. He's a human being like me, right? So we breathe same air. And then that comes from a theory that I learned from my dad, which I don't know if it was the best things to learn from him. So my dad was so obsessed of us being the first in the class, not having the top marks. No, the first, you need to be the first. If you're not the first, for him, you failed. And he would ask you a question and say, tell me what the student who was the first in class gets that you don't get, so that I can give it to you, so next time you are the first. Yeah, he was so obsessed by number 1. I don't know why. So now learning from that mentality, maybe not that so obsessed by number 1, but is, if this person can do it, why not me? Right? If Elon Musk is running Tesla, Neuralink, Starlink, X, and he has blood. He needs oxygen as I do. He goes to toilet. He sleeps. He needs same amount of sleep as I do. Why not me?
Is that something you want to teach your son?
Oh wow, Yusuf, can you just go easy on me? Bro, I want my son to make choices. That's the number 1 thing I want to teach my son. And we talk a lot about this with my wife. I don't want to make any choice for my son. I want to expose my son to every single thing that I will be lucky to expose him to. And I want him to make his own choice. So does he choose to do like I do? He should. Does he choose to be as my brother Ivan and become a painter? He's going to have my support. So I think the most important for me when you're raising a kid is you give them education, at least as much as you can afford. You expose them to the world of choice, and you train them to the thought process and the decision-making process. But the end result of their choices should not depend on us. It should be them and themselves. Because when you go to bed, Yusuf, midnight, 1, whatever time, you're not with your dad, right? Even if when you're married, you are not with your wife in your brain. So it's you, yourself, against you, right? So I really want to, hopefully, inshallah, I want my son to be very exposed to everything so that he will be able to make the right choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be probably like the philosophy of life that you would want to teach your son, let's say, for example, from everything that you've learned about doing business, working with people, just living life, and what would be something you would tell him about life?
Bro, you didn't warn me the questions you're going to ask me. I thought you were going to talk about money, building businesses, etc. Man. This is a hard question. I need my son to be happy and successful, but I don't want to define happiness for him, and I don't want to define success for him. So what does that mean? It means that I am ready to give everything I can for now, for him to have everything he can have for now, so that when he gets to the time for himself to make a decision, he's gonna be independent. Yeah. Very long time ago, I think it was before COVID, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a single man. He was still living with his family back then, and he was planning to leave and then go to live independently. And then I asked him so much questions. He was like, "Oh, what's your plan thinks about that? How are you gonna use your money?" Because he was just gotten a good promotion as well. And he's explained me about his family. It's a family. It's a normal working class in Rwandans. I think they're almost at the retirement. They have few houses, good retirement plan. So they don't need him, right? They don't need him to be around to buy them food or do anything. They need him to come and say hi, check on them, and they need him to set off, and then go around the world in his own definition of running the world. So that's really what I wish for my son. I want my son to be able to sleep and not worry that my dad cannot pay a doctor fee, right? My dad has a mortgage problem, and I need to cater for my dad. And these are the problems that most of Africans live in, right? So you grew up by thinking that you will grow up to continue to support yourself, etc. But you get to a stage where everything stops, and then it goes back, right? You need to think about your cousins, your aunts, your granddads, your mother, your dad. I really want to, inshallah, with God's will, I want to break that for my family. I want to be able to be independent and then let my kids be independent. Like, I want them to do whatever they want to do with whatever they will make without thinking of what dads need.
Yeah. Interesting. And for people who are going through that, where they say, because I think you're touching on a very important thing, not just in Rwanda, we're talking about the whole of Africa, a lot of parts of Africa, where, you start making a little bit of money, and you grew up in this family where you have to support. People start seeing you making a little bit of money, and everybody is now after that little bit of money that you're making. How are you able to navigate this, and what's your advice for, let's say, young professionals who are starting to make money and they're, thinking about the same thing? They're like, hey, this is my time to build myself. I can't be going back. How do you take a step back, but not that hindering your next step?
So to start with, it's really not a bad thing to do it, right?
Yes.
Because that's what makes us Africans in general different. Because Africans, our culture is a community and family culture. So we don't like to grow alone. Even if when you want to do solo, grow solo, you are against the odds, right? You're against the culture, you're against the community. So we are a community of help me, I help you, right? I grow, you grow, right? And this is why you see in Western countries, if someone becomes a minister, for example, or a CEO, the people who are happy are people who his decision, that person's decisions will affect them positively, right? So in Africa, it's different. So when you become a CEO or a minister, everyone is happy not because of the decision you'll make that impacts them. No, because you are from their community. So you are making the family proud. You are making the community proud, right? So, and because of that, and one, you have the sense, you have a responsibility to make the community proud, and you have the responsibility to give back and create the next Yusuf, right? Because you want to continue creating that generation of a proud community, a proud family, etc. So, and really, that's what I want people to think about. So, don't be discouraged by the support you need to give to your family. Think about it in that way, right? You come from a community, you are raised by a community in our culture. So you need to make that community proud, right? So now, if you can manage to sustain yourself and then create a next generation that will sustain yourself without needing you financially, then they will make you proud in other things, not necessarily financially, right? But if finance involved as well, then do it, because we are culture of community, we are culture of family. We should never stop that, because that's what makes us unique, and that's what makes us Rwandan or Africans.
Yeah, but it's like I'm making a little bit of money.
You are making a little bit of money, but
if I help them, there's no
unfortunately, I would want to say don't support them. Unfortunately, I can't. Because how were you raised, Yusuf? You were raised by small money your dad made, your small money your granddad made, right? If you could, I don't know about your family, but if you could track the history of your family, you'll find that somewhere, somehow, someone else was involved in your life, right? They were making also small money, right? So now why do you all of a sudden want to be selfish and do not give them, right? It's really the selfishness that we don't have in our culture that we need to think about. And the only way for this not to happen is to, for now, unfortunately, you need to provide. But if you want to stop that, it won't stop on you. It will stop on the next generation you create, right? Do I, Malik, stop giving? I don't. I can't, right? What the best I can do is that I am creating the next Rwandan generation. So whatever I give to my generation I'm creating, that's what will create the change. It's the same as education, right? I cannot go correct everything I learned 10 years ago. Sibyo, whatever that happened to me, I cannot change it. So the only way for me to change is to change way forward. So now way forward may not have a positive impact on me, but it will have a positive impact to the next community. Yeah. So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Interesting. Let's talk about burnout a little bit. When did you feel it? And what did you feel, in your body?
I am not even sure that I'm not feeling it now.
Does it ever go? That's the
Does it ever go, right? I think for me, I start questioning a lot about myself. And one thing about burnout is that burnout comes with dissatisfaction. You are not satisfied of what you're doing. You feel like you want to do more, but you don't have an itch to actually do more. You're just stuck somewhere, right? And all of a sudden you don't want to do nothing. You just want to stop. You want to do, you want to stop. You want to do, you want to stop. So, and that's really how I get the burnout. I do get shocks in life every here and there. I've had serious burnouts in my life, like maybe 4 or 5 times. And sometimes it's even burnouts that don't necessarily come from a lot of responsibilities. It comes from other trauma, other generation trauma, or psychological problems, or other issues that you may have. But I believe in therapy, by the way, and I've seen therapists. And then one of the things they explained me, one of my therapists, was that there's a time your brain sucks so much, and your brain can't really hold. When your brain can't hold, it starts releasing to the physics, right? That's when you don't sleep. That's when you have a headache. That's when you have a back pain, because your brain has so much. So now I have started that really helped me so much, because when it's just the brain, it's easier to keep going, right? Because you can wake up, you can walk, you can talk, so you don't even feel it. So when I'm at that point where, and then all of these things are reflecting, it's the time I'm like, hold on, I've been running so much. Can I at least just slow a bit? Yeah. And then honestly, yeah, I don't have a long-term solution, unfortunately. If I would have had a long-term solution, I would have made this today. But I don't. And so I guess I need to live with this for some time.
What does that mean, prioritizing yourself?
So at least finding some little bit time of yourself, or finding a little bit of time to do something that is outside of money-making, business operations, something else, right? Like, for example, I may have a really long day, and I'll be like, it's 3 p.m. I just need to stop and then go home and play with my son, and that makes me so happy, right? The other time, literally this week, I could not sleep. 1 a.m. Tried to really sleep, I couldn't. I just decided to wake up and go and run. It was the best 25-minute run I've ever had in my life. So I came, felt really cleaned in my brain, took a shower, went to bed, slept like a baby. So when I'm saying prioritizing yourself is to really try to find those small things that could make you really happy, or like help you to think and refresh. And people have different things. So you just need to keep trying different things until you really find what works for you. Because what works for me won't really work for you, won't work for someone else.
Yeah. What was the equivalent to playing with your son before you had a son?
Well, it's been 2 years now. I would say my wife is really my number one cheer. I just give her a call. She has this way to calmly talk to me, and then I'm fine. Yeah. Or she asks me one question. I'm like, I'm an idiot. Why? Okay, great. Okay, fine. Yeah. So yeah. I would say, I'm a very family person. I really, my family, they are my number one support. That makes me happy, and make me really cool down. If not, I go to the gym. I really never stop going to the gym. I'm not as consistent to say I go there 3 times a week all the time, but I try to do those type of things. And every here and there, when I have made enough money, I give myself a nice gift. It makes me happy. It reminds me why I'm working so hard. Yeah. It's the small things, really. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. Yeah,
absolutely. And what are some of the things that are keeping you busy right now? So, what are the things you're working on?
A lot. Some I can disclose, others I can't. But really, 2 things are making me so busy now. It's 2 things. I am running 2 companies at the same time. As I am the country lead of African Management Institute, with huge responsibilities, more than 20 people, and huge responsibilities to our partners, to my bosses, my leadership team in terms of growing the company. And in the last 3 years, we've really done amazing. We've trained, supported more than 7 entrepreneurs across Rwanda. And when I see the result, it makes me so happy, and it makes me not want to give up a little inch on this job, not just because of the satisfaction of the job, but the satisfaction of the impact we are creating to the Rwandan entrepreneurs. At the same time, I think now most people know, with me and my brother, we run a creative agency. I would say it's one of my most successful business venture. We launched it 3 years ago. Never thought that it would be as where it is now. We built becoming a media center for other young people to come and then be more creative, paint and create podcasts, create music. And then that comes with a lot of other things, like number of clients you're running in there, and stuff like that. And there's some other small initiatives like mentorship, boards, small money do you invested somewhere. But really 2 things that I think about, it's those 2 main those 2 companies.
Yeah. Let's talk about tips about building a company.
Yeah.
Right. And you just mentioned that it's one of your most successful businesses.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody wants to understand how did you make it a successful business? That's the $1 million question again for a lot of entrepreneurs is, how do I build something that the market is looking for or needs, and how do I turn that into a successful business and make the impact that I'm looking for? So take me through the journey of why did you decide to build that company? What was the story behind it? What do you guys do? And
so when we started, my brother and I, as I said, we were raised in a creative community. So my entire family, one way or another, we have our creative juices, right? My sister who passed was a great actor, poet. My brother is a really great creative mind in terms of visual. I run marketing campaigns, marketing businesses, creatively thinking in terms of strategy building, etc. And when we started, I was doing my own thing in a creative world, creative industry, and my brother was doing his own thing. And the idea was, why do we keep feeding others, right? Because you have people that you're working with. I have these other companies that I'm supporting to be more successful. Why don't we get together, create our own company, and build each other as a family? And and then it was a compliment again on the partnerships, like my business mind, business operations, running the team, to his incredible creative direction and creative thought process that was making us unique. And that's our unique selling point, right? So there's so many other creative agencies. They do different things, and they are good on different things, but they don't have Malik and Khalil. So we are good because we are two together, and that's what makes us different. So the reason I'm talking about this is because of business partnerships. It's really important. And then one of the things that made us successful is because we understood our partnerships. And this is beyond family. It's really understanding our strength and weakness, and then how this really create a good business. That's one. And then two, I think we are a creative agency that has the biggest team. Most of the agencies operate on a very small amount of people. And again, it's because you understand the power of people. The power of having people doing their niche, what they're so good at, but also building each other. And we do invest a lot of money we make back in the business, in terms of hiring more people, buying more equipment, and really our goal is to stand out, because that's what you do in the creative industry, right? You need to make sure that when a client rings you or come to you and you go to their client, the number one thing you tell them is, this is how I'm different to all other 10 creative agencies you've met. Because this country has more than 20 or 30, or I don't know, hundreds creative agencies. So now why would you come to 63? And in the last 3 years, we've managed to sign contract with some of the biggest corporates in this industry. So the only way you manage to do that is because we show them that we are different. We are different as people. We are different as what we deliver. And we are different in terms of what we commit to give.
Interesting. And for people trying to get into business, you've run multiple businesses, still are running multiple businesses, right? The $1 million question is entrepreneurship for everyone?
Yeah.
We can start there.
No. There's nothing that is not for everyone, not just entrepreneurship, right? Medicine is not for everyone. Driving is not for everyone. Content creation is not for everyone. There's nothing, as a simple also, there's nothing in this world that is made for everyone. You can be okay at doing something, but if this is not your calling, if you don't understand the ins and outs, it won't be for you, right? What you can do is you can learn, right? You can learn entrepreneurship. You can learn how to do business. But that will get you as far as it can get you, right? And then again, this is really, it's very personal to people to think about, what am I good at, right? And then where should I spend my energy? But I don't believe that things are for everyone. Honestly, no. I believe that everyone has their own callings. The most important is to find your calling. Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, for me at least, I try so many things, and to see where I succeeded and where I failed. And if I fail, I'm like, that this isn't mine. I try to learn more. So like, can I learn about it? If I can learn it and understood it, it's great. If I can learn and then still don't understand it, it's not mine. Yeah. But again, we need to define entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is huge, right? You might not be an entrepreneur, a good entrepreneur to run your own business, right? But you might be a really good entrepreneur to make money and then invest in other people's business. That's entrepreneurship as well, right? You find people who works as leaders in other people's organization, but they've invested in tons of companies. That is entrepreneurship. And then I think, again, in terms of understanding what you need to do around the entrepreneurship ecosystem is to understand your niche. Yeah. And this is also why you see sometimes founders create businesses and then eventually the company become way bigger than them and then grow, right? Because the company has grown them. So that doesn't mean that you've stopped being an entrepreneur, but it has reached the stage where you can't, right? So you gotta admit it and then get other people to do it. I've met this young girl one day that I wanted to hire, and she told me that I love business, but I'll never have my own business. But I'll run people's business. I keep telling all my friends, my families, asking them to open businesses, and I will be a very good MD to run their business. Yeah. So she's like, and she was at that stage, she was still at university, but she already knew that she doesn't want to take her own money and invest in anything. But if you hire her and then give her challenges, she's going to be good at it. And for me, it's like I was really impressed, right? Because she knows what she wants to do around entrepreneurship. So I really think that that's the same mindset and thinking that we should take our own entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were an entrepreneur. You sit on different boards where you advise entrepreneurs on how they can improve their operations and be more successful. What do you think separates successful entrepreneurs and those who don't succeed?
Yeah. So what was the question again?
What do you think separates successful entrepreneurs and those who don't succeed?
I think what really separates successful entrepreneurs and then one who don't succeed is vision. Yeah, it's clear vision. Like as an entrepreneur, your vision should be very clear from the beginning. And then that doesn't mean that your vision, the vision you have today, should be the same vision you have in 10 years, right? So what I mean is the core should be the same, right? And the vision could change down the road because you meet different things, right? So I'm sure when you started BAG, the idea of BAG you had 5 years ago is not the idea of BAG you have today, right? But the core that made you create BAG is still the same, yeah? So the vision, the way of reaching to the core may change, right? But you really need to understand the core of why you are doing that, yeah? And then this sounds very superficial, but the core is the why. One of my favorite book is Always Start with the Why by Simon Sinek. And I've read that. I don't read too many books, by the way, but I've read that book so many times because it keeps taking me back to the core of understanding my why in life. And really that's what makes us a successful entrepreneur. And then I think the entrepreneurs that had inspired me so much, they're entrepreneurs that really understood why they did what they did. And then one of the best examples I have again is the book I read, Shoe Dog by Nike, understanding how Nike was created. Everything was based on why. And Nike was based on the consumer insight. It's like, how do you feel when you wear a Nike shoe? It's not about how fancy Nike is. It's how they make you feel. And this is why their marketing campaign is all about motivation. It's all about your feelings, how they push you to the limit. You can't just do it. So that's really, for me, the essence of entrepreneurship.
Malik, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, bro.
For coming on the podcast and, just really dropping a lot of gems for people and for myself as well, learning a lot about from your journey and, admire you from afar, all the things you've been able to do. I think most importantly, the lessons you've learned along the way and being willing to share them with the world. So thank you so much. And I wish you all the success in everything you're working on. And man, it's great to have you.
Thank you so much, man. I did not expect this, but I guess it was a really great conversation.
Sure, man.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.